Welcome in, everybody, to the CFB Nation All-America podcast. I'm Bill Trocchi, senior editor at sportingnews.com, alongside Bill Bender, our national college football writer at sportingnews.com, and the president of the Football Writers Association of America. We're coming to you live on our CFB Nation YouTube channel again. Thanks to Brian Driscoll at Irish Breakdown for setting it up for us. If you want to subscribe, just go over to YouTube, search CFB Nation, and click subscribe. Bill? It's here. The weather here in Atlanta, the college football capital of the South, has turned a little bit. The humidity is leaving, finally. The 5 o'clock thunderstorms are going away, and we are getting into some football weather here. And it's perfect timing as we get ready for this blockbuster week one that is potentially the best ever, and that really is not a lot of hyperbole.
No, it'll be a fun weekend. Obviously the next 5 nights we'll be up late watching these games. I mean, as far as week ones, yeah, this is as loaded as you could possibly have. 3 top 10 showdowns, a game here in Columbus on Saturday that's going to be huge. We can debate the meaning of that. I would say that, we'll have our playoff picture up and all 6 of those teams that were in the top 10 are in the playoff and probably won't be too hurt, depending on, I think the game you'll be at maybe a little bit different, but I think those are things to consider. But it's a new, fresh set of games, and it's that overload, that caffeine jolt, all those kind of things, and that starts tonight, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So this is the first week one with 3 top 10 matchups ever. This is the first week with 3 top 10 matchups in any week since 2017. It's been 8 years since we've had 3 top 10 matchups on the same weekend. So, yeah, when people have been hyping up this weekend, they've been hyping it up for a reason. So let's get into our Trocchi trivia before we start breaking down some of the games. I want to touch on this awesome Lee Corso story you did at sportingnews.com before we get going on that. And then we will get into the games. Our picks contest is back, and we will see where that goes this year. So, my Trocchi trivia question for you. I know I want to give for the listeners, the question can be, who is the last defending national champion to lose its opener? Now, I know that's a layup for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say, in that game, who was the quarterback that pulled off the upset of the defending national champion in the first game after they won the national championship the next year? See if you could remember that quarterback. I couldn't remember. I looked it up, but I've got confidence in you. We'll revisit that at the end of the show. We'll give the answer. Who's the last defending national champion to lose their opener the previous season? Because Ohio State, of course, has to play number 1 Texas on Saturday. They may lose their opener this year as the defending national champion. So before we get into all the big games over the weekend, I want to touch on Mr. Lee Corso, who is retiring finally after a very, very, very long, very successful, very charismatic career at ESPN on game day. He's making his final headgear pick right before noon, right before Ohio State and Texas kickoff, even though that game's on Fox. ESPN will be in Columbus. You will be in Columbus. Tell me a little bit about the story you did. You got a bunch of great quotes from a lot of people. It's really good story. It's on sportingnews.com. You can find it. You just search Lee Corso, and it's on our college football page right now. So how did you kind of track some of these guys down? What are some of the fun things that they told you about Lee?
No, it was fun. Yeah, well, I tracked him down by being a reporter. I mean, that's our job. It was fun, to throw that around and go talk to Mac Brown and Steve Spurrier and Frank Beamer. I mean, he called me late at night. That was good. They were great conversations about that 1999 season where they, Lee Corso went 11-0, and Chris Felica, the Bear that we all know him as, talked about that season. It was, not that long ago. People act like that's like ages ago. It's really not, but it was a season that helped launch the phenomenon of game day to its present state. And Lee Corso was obviously a huge piece of that. You go back, you look at some of the old videos and those kind of things, that it was fun to see him do that. And then you kind of go through it and you're like, man, he went 11-0. And there were some good inside stories from that season. Rather Mac had a couple good stories. There was the Michigan State game where Nick Saban coached at Michigan State, and I talked to the quarterback, Bill Burke. They know his name around here in Columbus for the year before when he beat Ohio State. But it was fun, and that's the legacy piece of Lee Corso to me is, headgear became the thing, but, you forget that he was a coach, and you forget that, his passion and all those things really helped game day go. So, it's full circle on Saturday with him going to Penn State or Ohio State, where his first pick was Ohio State, Penn State. So I have a feeling he's going to put that Buckeye hat on that Brutus hat one more time. And it brings, full circle what's going to be a madhouse in Columbus on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, I thought it was great that the Bear pointed out that's, you pointed out that game day at that point, we forget they didn't go on the road every week. It just became bigger and bigger and bigger where they almost had to go on the road, and they got the Home Depot sponsor and all that kind of stuff to go on the road every year. It was still just kind of a promo, a good job for the upcoming broadcast on ESPN in the day and setting the table and all that stuff. And they would go on the road occasionally. Like you said, they did, I guess they went the bowl game. They did 10 weeks that year. So they almost went on the road every week. It's probably 13, 14 weeks of regular season. But we forget, like I said, and that probably did really launch, that show up to the next level. And it was a really fun story. They went 11-08. He picked a couple of upsets in there. That was really good. So go tune into that one. We have another story quickly coming tomorrow. I wrote on the 1990 Georgia Tech Colorado split national championship. Those two teams are playing for the first time. And I started researching that game as a crazy season, crazy series of events. Georgia Tech started the year unranked, made it all the way up to number one in the coaches poll. Colorado, of course, had an early season loss, an early season tie, a game where they needed 5 downs in order to beat Missouri on the road, which was a just wild game. And all of that was secondary to kind of some of the stuff I found out that took place on January 1 and January 2 with the voting that ended up in a split national championship with Colorado getting AP and Georgia Tech getting the coaches poll vote, and how everything shook out. So that one's publishing in the morning tomorrow, and it was really fun to put together. I talked to a bunch of people who were around back then, and it's just like you talk to them, it seems like it was 100 years ago. There was no internet, there was no cell phones, it was crazy. And the way the information spread out. And one thing that wasn't in the story, Georgia Tech kicker Scott Sisson, he was the hero of when they beat Virginia, who was number one in late October, early November. That really launched Georgia Tech. And I asked him, where were you when you found out you won the national championship? And he couldn't remember.
Huh. That's pretty good. Well, that was a strange time in college football. I'm looking forward to reading that. They still talk about those. They'll talk about it Friday night, just like they talk about Michigan and Nebraska in 97 or LSU and USC in 03. That was, I'm looking forward to reading that for sure. I know it's sporting news this week, whether it was that or Corso. I know Mike DeCourcy's got Brian Kelly covered going into the Clemson game. We've got a ton of good content out there, and we love for people to read it. It'd be great because I think we've shown this week that we're ready for week one, if anybody has, with all this in-depth stories, and some of them from the past. But looking forward to Brian Kelly's. You have a feature on Cade Klubnik up. We'll have a complete Ohio State Texas preview. So we've got the bases covered over there.
We're ready to go. So let's dive in. Let's go to our biggest games. Let's not talk about tonight, Thursday night. Some people would listen to this obviously on the feed, and it'll be a short shelf life. So we'll jump right into Friday. Georgia Tech at Colorado, 8 o'clock ESPN. Georgia enters as a 4.5-point favorite. Colorado, they're starting former Liberty quarterback Caden Salter. 5-star freshman Juju Lewis may or may not play, depending on how the game goes. Coach Prime told us that this week. Georgia Tech, of course, experienced offense led by Haynes King. But to me, Bill, the story of this game, no pregame Ralphie, to be quite a disappointment to the Atlanta folks who are flying out there. They got some nice mountain weather, big game. No Ralphie run at the beginning of the game. Ralphie 6 retired due to, as the press release said, quote, an indifference to running. And there's no Ralphie 7 in the bullpen, so to speak, the literal bullpen. So he's not ready to go. That's a bad omen for the Buffaloes. I want to ask you: do you have an indifference to running?
I don't do the whole long sprinting. Sure, I was a sprinter, man. I don't do long. I don't understand jogging. I never have. Like I would never. My wife and Kimberly does that. Grant, they do it. I'm like, no. I'll find other ways. When I ran track in high school, I didn't run more than 100 yards, which is probably
that's all Ralphie does is 100 yards.
Yeah, they're asking for 100, so maybe he's being a little lazy. But one of the better traditions in college football, and you set it up. This is a really fun game on Friday. Now you click through two of them. I know the other game we're going to talk about, but I mean, Deion's a story, obviously, and with his health, and I'm so happy he's healthy, but
now he said there's going to be a porta potty on the sideline. Now I don't know if he was kidding or not kidding. I think
that's fine. Like, I mean, I run to they have those out at the lacrosse fields. I have to run over there sometimes. I get that. So
you could use that at the lacrosse field. Okay.
I could use, so no, they have them there. So that's what I'm saying. Like that doesn't, like, if they show camera shots of that doesn't impact me at all. I'm very interested to see how they handle, we talked about this yesterday. Like, a lot of people are going to watch them Friday night. A lot of people are going to hopefully be educated by that 1990 season. A lot of people are going to check out these quarterbacks, Salter and Haynes King. If they lose, I wonder how many people are going to tune into them. The last year, a lot of people watched the opener. I don't know where the North Dakota State game ranks, but it was a ton. The year before, obviously, a ton TCU people watch this game. So, a couple things. We're going to find out if Colorado can keep that momentum going. And Georgia Tech's getting a lot of buzz as like an underrated playoff ACC sleeper.
Buzz. I see what you did there with Buzz.
I didn't mean to do that, but we'll see. Can they do it every week? They played Giant Killer and everybody knows that last year, but they've also had some duds in there. And this is a dud they can't afford to have.
No, and I think it's not going to be a surprise if Colorado loses. That's the thing. I don't want the overreaction to be, oh my gosh, Deion, his kid's gone, Travis is gone. They're terrible, right? I mean, Georgia Tech's a good team. They just took Georgia to 6-8 overtimes, whatever it was, on Thanksgiving weekend on the road last year. They beat Miami last year. They've got an experienced quarterback. I would be surprised if Georgia Tech doesn't win the game. That doesn't mean Colorado's not going to have a decent season this year. I'm curious to see how Caden Salter does. I would like to see Juju Lewis in there and see what happens there. But, and it's just got to be a chaotic situation for Deion. I mean, he's got our sympathy. For those who don't know, he had to have his bladder removed due to cancer. And so he's got some issues he has to deal with on a day-to-day basis on, practices, games, everything like that. So, I mean, we hope things go well for him. But like I said, if they lose to a team like Georgia Tech, who I'm surprised is not in the preseason top 25. They're on the fringe. They're like 20, 29, something like that. I agree with you.
Yeah, they probably, you could rank, I kind of like Louisville too. Like, I think Louisville and Georgia Tech are kind of the same. Like, one of those teams could bust through. So this is a big game for them.
This is where we talked about I forget what it was, 29 out of the last 31 years, an unranked team finishes in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Tech's a candidate for that. Louisville's a candidate
for
that.
Not bad. No, yeah. I agree.
So anyway, all right. So that'll be a fun one Friday night. Keep the remote handy. Auburn at Baylor, also 8:00 on Fox. We'll see what happens with that one. But let's jump into Saturday, the noon window. We know the big one. Number 1 Texas at number 3 Ohio State. Like I said, that one is on Fox, and Ohio State enters, at least according to Caesars, 1.5-point favorite. Ohio State beat Texas 28-14 in the Cotton Bowl last year in the CFB semifinals. Texas was down 21-14 and had the ball at the Ohio State 1-yard line with about 5 minutes to go. But the Buckeyes stood tall, eventually forced a fumble that was returned for a touchdown by Jack Sawyer. Notably, Jeremiah Smith, all-world wide receiver, 1 catch for 3 yards last year in this game. Give me the Columbus vibe. You went to media yesterday, talked to some of the players. What's the feeling up there?
I think just they want to play. Caleb Downs was basically like, I just want to play. You want to get out there. They've been, hitting on each other for a month. And now, all the hype points are there. I think, we have full preview at SN today. Arch is out. They were asked about Arch, and Sonny Styles and Caleb said the same thing. He's super mobile. It's funny if you listen to Sark and Ryan Day's comments about, they basically say the same exact thing about the other quarterback. So I think one thing I took away from yesterday, you mentioned it about Jeremiah Smith, is Brandon Ennis, the slot receiver for Ohio State, breakout candidate. He said that it's not like they haven't seen these coverages before. He's like, Marvin Harrison teams did that to him. So, I do think Jeremiah Smith's going to have more than one catch in this game. And I'm interested to see which stars step out that we haven't. Like, you and I know who Colin Simmons is, but will the rest of the nation find out? Kenyatta Jackson, a guy for Ohio State that could break out in this game. He's kind of filling that void left by Jack Sawyer. As Sark pointed out, 26 guys were drafted. 32 guys from the game last year between these two schools are running around in NFL camps right now. And yet the game's still stacked with talent. So
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe, the level that these guys are recruiting at, I think they can replace these guys. Like, I felt like when Michigan won the national championship, lost all those guys to the draft, they weren't recruiting at that Alabama crazy level or whatever. Ohio State and Texas are recruiting at that level, and I do think they can stay in the top 5.
Yeah, I was on a radio hit last night, and Mike Meltzer said he called Ohio State recession-proof. I was like, that's a beautiful way to put it. They've only had like one bad year in this century, so it'll be a good game. I think the quarterbacks are the focus. Obviously, Arch is going to be. We're going to overreact to Arch, and I've tried over the last 2 years not to do that, but nobody listens to me. That he could go out there and play not great, and he'll be fine. Julian Sayin, I actually would argue probably a little more pressure on him in some ways, because the long-term outlook for Arch, he's going to deal with expectations all the way through the NFL. Julian Sayin has to deal with the immediate expectations of replacing a national championship quarterback, where in an environment where 4 of the last 5 guys, or three of the 4 guys before Will Howard were first-round picks. It's not an easy. I think it's the hard. Notre Dame used to be the toughest job in college football. Notre Dame quarterback. I think it's Ohio State quarterback now.
And he's fresh off winning the QB battle.
Correct.
Is it like Arch is Arch? Arch is QB1 no matter what. He could throw 5 interceptions, and he's going to start the next week. Sayin throws 5 interceptions, he's not starting in week 2. Yep. I wouldn't think.
Well,
there
would be a controversy because they would have time to go through Grambling and my alma mater, which, by the way, I'm wearing that right now. OU, oh yeah, we play Rutgers tonight. So but yeah, you got a point. That would be the lead talking point Monday if he goes out and has a horrible game. I think since I got up there, Bill, and my prediction was, we can get into that in a bit, I had a little bit of higher score game than the people I'm talking to around there. They feel like it's going to be a little bit like last year, a little bit of a defensive fist fight. There are a lot of really good defensive players out there. And there were about 100 questions about the script and Steve Sarkisian's script and Ryan. These are good play callers, and we'll see what wrinkles they have for each other. And aside, I'm just excited for the atmosphere of this game. It sounds like get there early, get there, big noon. And Dave, I don't know if Dave's going to be there or not. I don't care. I really don't care what
I was about to ask you, what's the bigger matchup? Arch versus Matt Patricia, the new defensive coordinator at Ohio State, or Lee Corso versus Dave Portnoy?
Oh, Lee's more important. Come on now. There's a market for what Dave does, and he's super successful. And it's an obvious counter to Pat McAfee. I understand all that. There's an audience for that, and those guys do a fantastic job. I wouldn't say I never listen to them because they're all over my timeline. And sometimes they add to the game and the excitement. And, but like I said, there's other Michigan guys that have walked into that stadium and done a lot worse.
Right.
Like Woodson, who's in there all the time and is probably the best analyst of all those Michigan guys, and Desmond, who, plays along. I don't know if you know, Desmond brings his own food when they go to Ohio State, packs his own lunch. So, little things like that make the rivalry fun, in my opinion. But with Dave, they don't need to take it to extremes. That's my opinion.
Keep the clicker handy in that window. We've got Syracuse Syracuse versus number 24 Tennessee. That one's right here in Atlanta, noon on ABC. Tennessee 14-point favorite there. We get our first glimpse at Joey Aguilar trying to replace Nico. We also have Toledo at Kentucky, 12:45 on SEC Network. We'll see what's going on with the Wildcats. And then Old Dominion at Indiana. This year's Indiana could be Indiana. Again, 2:30 on FS1 if you want to track that one. All right, the afternoon window, the big marquee showdown, number 8, Alabama at Florida State, 3:30 on ABC. Alabama is I saw this morning 14-point favorite. It was 13.5. I think it's ticked up to 14. Alabama will be missing Sporting News first team All-America defensive lineman Tim Keenan III. Running back Jam Miller's already out. He's I don't know if he's like the clear number 1, but he was definitely going to play in the rotation. Florida State, of course, coming off a 2-10 season, not afraid to talk. QB Tommy Castellanos said Nick Saban is not there to save Alabama this year from him. So, and nobody was in Charlotte to save us at the ACC kickoff from Mike Norvell's fiery speech when it was FSU's turn at the podium. What do you see in this one?
That the reaction afterward will be fire that guy, depending on how they look. There's 3 possible outcomes. There's Alabama loses, they'll want Kalen DeBoer fired immediately. They played so poorly on the road in some spots last year, and I think that's the proving ground here. Missing Keenan's a big deal. Having a new quarterback's a big deal. Florida State they've got a renovated stadium. I underestimated that factor last week. Kansas renovated their stadium. They were juiced up, and they just took Fresno State out of that game immediately. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Doak Campbell would be a really tough place to play. So, and the weather is going to get in the way. It's supposed to be wet, soggy, messy. So I think that spread looks ridiculous, honestly. If Florida State doesn't keep this within 14, we're going to be talking about Mike Norvell getting fired. And, Thomas Castellanos didn't do the job. They have some talent. They got Gus Malzahn. I saw a tweet last night that said, we're missing Tim Keenan. We got a first-time starter, and we're up against Gus Malzahn. What could go wrong? That's what Alabama's dealing with here. So I'm not going to call upset, but I just – that feels like if Florida State doesn't keep it within 10, one of our writers, if maybe one of us, that, you're going to be writing that, okay, does Florida State want to get rid of Norvell? Does Alabama want to get rid of DeBoer? This is one of the games we're going to talk about where the loser is what we write.
Reminder, both coaches started 13-0 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
That's wild. That's a great stat and a great.
DeBoer started 14-0 and lost. Norvell started 13-0. This is 2023. This wasn't 10 years ago or 20 years ago. This is 2 years ago, and we're ready to fire these guys.
Well, I mean, Florida State, yes, he did start 13-0, and then he went 2-10. You're not allowed to go 2-10 at Florida State. I think that's the big thing there. Alabama, it's just he followed Saban. One of the things we should go back and look at. You know who I think of with Kalen DeBoer, and I think he's an awesome guy. Was around him at the Eddie a couple years ago, Eddie Robinson dinner. He won the cut. He's just an awesome guy, and you can tell he's a really good coach. But it reminds me a little bit of Zook following Spurrier, where
Zook wasn't in the national championship game though.
Fair, correct, but it just when you're the presence of Saban versus the presence of DeBoer, 2 very different things. Just like Spurrier and Zook, and all it takes is a couple losses, like. That Vanderbilt loss, man, they're probably still look at it. I know you're a Vanderbilt guy, but man, that didn't set the tone. And I go back to last year; they played so bad at Oklahoma, and that's why it proved to me that you can play well on the road. That's what I'm looking for.
All right. Well, Also in that window, keep the remote handy. 3 top 10 teams are playing in that 3:30 window. Nevada at number 2, Penn State. That's on CBS. Marshall at number 5, Georgia. That's on ESPN at 3:30. And then Montana State at number 7, Oregon, 4 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. So none of those 3 should be threatened. But if you want to see some top 10 football, while Florida State and Alabama are duking it out, that's your those are your choices right there on Saturday afternoon. The night window, I'll be there. Number 9, LSU at number 4, Clemson, 7:30 ESPN. Clemson is a 3.5-point favorite, and this is the Death Valley versus Death Valley, Death Valley Junior versus Death Valley Junior.
Yeah,
Who's the real Death Valley Junior?
I'll let you take this one, Bill. I mean, real quick. I mean, it's obviously you have a really good feature on Cade up this morning. I read that earlier today. Cade Klubnik, a guy that potential first-round pick, potential Heisman winner. Those kind of not really. I don't think we treat him that way because he's probably not the most exciting candidate. This is a huge game for him, a huge spot, and BK LSU. I think that's the storyline. I'll let you take it away, but I do think it's. Can Brian Kelly win an opener in LSU, which he hasn't been able to do? And if he doesn't, what's going to be the viral moment this time?
Yeah, these 2 teams have never met on campus. 4 games between the 2. All of them have been bowl games. The last matchup was the 2019 national championship game with Joe Burrow and LSU beat Clemson 42-25. That game was closer than you think. Did you cover that game?
I was there, and I remember –
midway through the third quarter, it was 28-25.
I picked Clemson to win that game.
Okay.
Because Clemson was still Clemson then, right? They were still –
Trevor was still there, right?
They had Trevor Lawrence. They had dudes. I thought, on defense that Etienne, they were loaded. And the one thing here that I think you're going to – if I had to predict, what is Bill going to write about on Sunday or Saturday, early Sunday? I think you're going to pay attention to the Clemson defensive line and how much that disrupts what LSU's trying to do. And I also think this game of the 3 top 10 showdowns is the most geared to have a goofy finish of some sort. And you can't really predict that, but just
LSU involved. So
LSU's there. And Clemson still, we're putting all this pressure on Kelly and LSU, but Clemson lost 3 SEC teams last year. And there's that stigma, but wouldn't you agree that of all the conferences, the ACC, we've talked about half their teams, the ACC has the most on the line this weekend. Mm-hmm. There's no question. And this is the biggest game for them.
And so one of the losing streaks is going to come to an end. Clemson's 3-game losing streak against the SEC, or LSU's 3-game or 5-game opening season losing streak, season opener losing streak. And so one of them will be celebrating, one of them, the losing streak will continue. Like the Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence game, this one might have 2 NFL quarterbacks, maybe 2 first-rounders, right? Garrett Nussmeier from LSU and Cade Klubnik from Clemson. I spent a decent amount of time with Klubnik at the ACC kickoff, and he seems relaxed. He loves Clemson. I mean, it was genuine. He wasn't just saying. And this is his 4th year there. He really appreciates Dabo sticking with him through some up and downs. He was not the end-all, be-all when he finally got the reins from DJU, and he kind of struggled a little bit. He said it wasn't fun. When you think you're good at something and 100,000 people suddenly tell you suck, it damages your confidence a little bit. And I think he has learned through failure is what he said. That was one of his quotes at the ACC kickoff. And now he's ready. He's got some great wide receivers this year. I think, like you said, the defensive line is going to be really, really good. I think Clemson is poised to have a really big season. LSU, I mean, the offense is there. I like Nussmeier a lot. I think he takes chances, but again, he's a veteran quarterback too. Usually with veteran quarterbacks, interceptions go down, completion percentage goes up. I'm not too worried about their offense. It's always been the defense. I mean, they lost 3 games with Jaden Daniels going absolutely nuts and winning the Heisman Trophy because their defense was so bad. They can never seem to figure out what to do with Harold Perkins. He's back again. People love him again. Is he going to be impactful again? He was impactful as a true freshman, which seems like eons ago. We'll see what he does now as a senior. He was projected as a first-round pick last year, but got hurt early, and they lost him, and that obviously hurt LSU. So he's back. Hopefully he stays healthy, and he has a big year too. It's going to be really fun. I've been to Clemson on a weekend where there was not a football game. It was just in the spring. I'm sure it's going to be very, very different. My plan is to get into Clemson early enough to find a place to watch the Ohio State-Texas game at noon, and then head over to the press box and kind of take in the atmosphere there. The Athletics' Grace Rayner has given me some recommendations on where I should watch Texas, Ohio State. So it's going to be really fun. I can't wait for that. So some of the other games at the night window, New Mexico at number 14, Michigan. Bryce Underwood is going to get the attention there. That's a 7:30 game on ESPN. You can click over to Georgia State at Ole Miss, 7:45 SEC Network. And then a really fun one for the Night Owls, as we talked about, I think it was either last pod or earlier this week, Utah at UCLA, 11 o'clock on Fox. Any of those games grab you?
Yeah, that one. I mean, just because of Nico and Devin Dampier and Utah, who's these were 5-7 teams. I mean, obviously I'll watch Mateer at Oklahoma and Bryce at Michigan, because as good as this week is, next week we're going to be scrounging for good games. That's the marquee game in week 2. So just seeing what Bryce Underwood's all about and what Mateer looks like at Oklahoma. We're not going to learn too much in those games. I do think Michigan is going to create a little bit of hype on Saturday. I think they're going to smack New Mexico, and we start talking about them like, oh, wait, they're back, they're clear, all those kind of things. But we'll learn more about Underwood and Mateer.
Sunday, number 6. Well, there's an afternoon game, of course, with South Carolina and Virginia Tech. You can keep your eye on that one. That's at 3:30 ABC. Also here in Atlanta, Aflac's got a little 2-day kickoff, which they've been doing the last couple of years. But the big one is Sunday night, number 6 Notre Dame at number 10 Miami, 7:30 ABC. Notre Dame is a 2.5-point favorite. If you haven't taken the time to read Pat Forty's Marcus Freeman story, go for it. SI.com. Really, really good story. Pat's been just, hitting some home runs, and that was really good insight into, one of the hot coaches in the country right now. Notre Dame has not had much luck in Miami, except for, of course, last year's Orange Bowl, but they didn't have to play Miami. They beat Penn State to advance to the national championship. The last time they played the Hurricanes, it was one of the worst games of the Brian Kelly era, 41-8, and blowout in favor of Miami. That was the high point of the Mark Richt era, I think, for the Canes. Crowd will be a factor. Defenses should rule the night. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I was at that game, and Miami wore black jerseys, I think, and then they just put one on Notre Dame that night. And
Pete Sampson said his ears are still ringing from that night.
Oh, they were rowdy right off the chute, and then I think they lost to Pitt the next week. So, we hyped up the U as being back, and this is a dangerous game for Notre Dame with a new quarterback on the road. Miami's got really good offensive line. They got Ruben Bain on the defensive side. They have players. They're going to feed into the emotion of being at home. They have an experienced quarterback in Carson Beck, coming off a 10-win season. So it's not like Mario hasn't figured some things out. And it reminds me, if they were to win this game, it would remind me a little bit of when Mario was at Oregon and they went into Ohio State and won. And that was a big victory for that program. Kind of set up Lanning, if we're being honest about it. Like they got rolling and haven't really stopped. So they need this game. Miami does. But, the more I think about it, Notre Dame's just got a ton of talent. They've upgraded the receiver room. Get Jeremiah Love. Defense has good players all over the place, like Drake Bowen, Leonard Moore. I don't have to tell our listeners that. I mean, obviously, you know this roster inside and out. I think I want to see if Jaden Greathouse is this breakout guy that could be. It's CJ Carr. You've developed a guy in-house. That's what intrigues me the most, is finally you're not playing portal roulette. But can CJ Carr go down there? It's kind of like Bryce Underwood next week at Oklahoma. Can you, or Arch this week, can you go into a hostile environment and get your team a win? It is a low spread for a reason, because that's historically a really tough place for Notre Dame to play. I don't ignore that history, but it's not everything, but it's certainly a factor.
And it's going to be low scoring, I would think. I think Miami especially, they're just going to stack the box, 8, 9 guys in there and say CJ Carr beat us, right? They don't want Jeremiah Love to beat him. Notre Dame's got more than just Jeremiah Love in the backfield too. Always have a good offensive line, even though they've got one injury on there to a starter. But generally speaking, I think if I'm Miami, I'm committed to stopping the run and see if CJ Carr can actually beat you. Jordan Faison is going to be a key guy, I would think, for Notre Dame to get loosen up that defense a little bit and see what happens. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I don't know if Notre Dame will go to Kenny Minchie a little bit in some running situations and see what happens there. It's going to be a really fun game. Like you said, Notre Dame has had zero success down there. I mean, it's been a long time. It was in the 80s. That 2017 game was the first one in 20-something years there. So it's not like it's been an every year thing, but it has not been a friendly place for Notre Dame in the past. And both really good defenses. Will Notre Dame's running game carry the day? We'll find out. So that'll be a really fun one. That Sunday night game is always the last 5 years. It's been sometimes the best game of the weekend, biggest ratings game of the weekend. And this one may track along those lines as well. That's, again, 7:30 ABC on Sunday night. Now, Labor Day, guess who? TCU at North Carolina, 8 o'clock on ESPN. TCU is a 3.5-point favorite. Bill Belichick makes his debut, of course. And you feel this will be one of the most highest rated, most discussed games of the weekend. We were talking about it yesterday. You're scheduled to do a Bill Belichick report card. I'm wondering if you want to do a Jordan Hudson report card as well. Is she going to, be part of the halftime speech? Is the hoodie going to be running plays by her? Press conference moderator? What do you see there?
Well, it has to be a good game. So I've thought about this. Like the Labor Day night game oftentimes is the afterthought to Sunday night. Right. Like,
right.
Except a couple years ago when Duke and Riley Leonard beat Clemson, we all got into that. What was the Labor Day night game last year? It was Brian Kelly, right? Or they were Sunday night. I think there was a not great game that Monday. I can't remember. Wow. Like maybe it was Kelly and USC. I feel like that was the last one.
No, USC played. No, that was a Sunday night.
That was a Sunday night. But the next night, because I can't remember the game, it was an afterthought game. It was like a Virginia Tech or something.
Right.
We didn't really
somebody or whatever.
So we need this game to be compelling, and I think Bill Belichick alone will be compelling.
Sure,
I'm interested in Gio Lopez and what he looks like. I'm interested in what it looks like with 70 transfers. I'm also interested. Okay, so the whole Belichick coaching scheme, as as a Patriots fan, is like you take away the other team's best player. What do they do to disrupt Josh Hoover and TCU? What do they do? They create some turnovers. I think the environment's going to be fun. Can they pull off an upset here? Which would, for Sonny Dykes, I mean, come on, you go from winning or getting to the national championship game to being like the poster child against Colorado, and now 2 years later, you could be the poster child for Bill Belichick's debut. So I'm sure he's emphasized that a little bit, or not with Sonny. But I do think, and I'll go on record as saying it, if they win and they look good doing it, it's because it's the last game of the week, it's going to create the largest reaction on Tuesday morning. Like those First Take and all those shows. I mean, Saturday, that's 3 days ago. By Tuesday after Labor Day, they really have an opportunity here to set it off, and I'm very intrigued to see how they do.
I just looked it up. Last year's Monday night game was BC winning at Florida State. So Florida State dropped to 0-2.
That's right, because they crushed them. So but we weren't like, I wasn't like glued to my television set. I was just like, wow, Florida State is bad. I may have wrote a reaction that night about how it was just went from bad to worse for Florida State. But the ACC is typically in this spot, and that'll cap their monster weekend.
No Jordan Hudson predictions, nothing.
Well, I mean, I saw what was the trademark with the I didn't understand. So it's jewelry that we're doing.
Who oh yeah, gold digger or something.
I'll stay 2 miles away from that one, Bill. I can't get anywhere near that. But no, I am very excited. We got that'll cap week 1. And as you know, like here's what I tell people. You always have to tell me this. You got to pace yourself a little bit tonight. I do think Boise State, South Florida is going to be a good game. But you go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then
then you reintroduce yourself to your family.
Yeah. That, and then you rocket ship into week 2. Week 2 sneaks up on you. It's like, and then I always say to you and listeners, whatever, it isn't till week 3 that I get in like a little bit of a rhythm, because you're coming off Thursday night. You're sitting there. You're like, oh, the Cowboys and Eagles are on, like, what am I going to do with my life? Make sure you marry somebody who's super understanding. That's always my advice. And I did that. So, let's get to it. I believe I have a confidence contest to defend.
Let's go with the confidence contest.
I think I won last year. First
year 5. I think I'm 3-1.
You are
in the 4 years. So year 5 kicks off. We do 5 games a week, any games we want, pick them against the spread. And we do it bowl confidence style, 5 points for our most sure pick, and then 4, 3, 2, 1 as we go down. So I'll kick us off because I think I won the season contest last year. My 5-pointer is going to be South Carolina -7.5 at Virginia Tech. I mean, not at Virginia Tech.
At Atlanta.
The neutral game in Atlanta. South Carolina, they got the best offensive player in the game in Lenora Sellers. They got the best defensive player of the game in Dylan Stewart, a first-team Sporting News All-America defensive end. The Gamecocks are going to be flooding into Atlanta to support Shane Beamer in this one. I expect a big pro-USC crowd. Frank will be honored before the game, Frank Beamer. So that'll be fun. South Carolina, they're just much deeper than Virginia Tech. And I looked this up. The Hokies have not beaten a Power 4 non-conference opponent since West Virginia in 2017.
Wow. Yeah. I think that game will be a little bit tighter. Maybe. Kyron Drones has to play well. Virginia Tech was good in spots last year, but like you said, they got to show that consistency. That's your 5, though. I'm going to, like any president does, I'm going to play politics here and cater to the crowd. I'm going to take Notre Dame -2.5.
ND is your 5-pointer.
I think they're the better team, at the end of the day. And even if it's tight, I think they're going to escape with a win there. I just think between the running backs, the receivers, I think Jaden Greathouse is going to have a game. And if CJ Carr plays within his, did I miss something?
No. I was just going to say, I don't believe in the receivers yet. I'm hoping to, but I don't believe in them yet.
I've heard, they're deep there, and they've got some young guys too. But I like defense too, and I'm gonna have to go read Pat's feature, but I just trust Marcus Freeman a little more.
I like it.
So I'm gonna go Notre Dame 5.
Let's do it. All right, my 4-pointer is the upset we've been told all summer. Toledo +9 at Kentucky. So here we are. Toledo running back Chip Trainum. You remember him?
Mm-hmm.
On his 4th school after stops at Ohio State, Arizona State, and Kentucky. Now he faces Kentucky after a disappointing 1-year, 3-game season last year in Lexington due to injuries. Toledo has the better QB in this game with Tucker Gleason over Zach Calzada. The Kentucky program just feels like it has no momentum. Toledo could win the MAC. I'm going with your MAC brethren here, Bill. Toledo.
You'll see why I'm laughing. I mean, I might as well. Can I do this now then? Because I have Toledo at 3.
Okay.
So I have the same pick. So the one caution with that, and I was a little skeptical, is anytime we pre-order, pre-package an upset, and that's been talked about for about a month, that Mark Stoops is probably going to use that. So
it doesn't happen. Right.
Right. So I'm a little skeptical, but I did put it as my 3. So I'm going to go back to you. You do your 3, and then I'll do my 4.
No, go ahead. You can do your 4. Go ahead.
And then I'll do my 4, and then we'll swing it back to you. At Georgia Tech -4.5. I think they're the better team. So This is my second road favorite, which I get is risky to pick road favorites, but Colorado's either going to be like fun or a complete mess. and let's not forget they lost 2 guys that they would probably rank in the top 5 of the. Travis is their greatest player ever, and Shedeur is top 5. So, I mean, that's what you lose. And I just think Georgia Tech and Brent Key, they have that mindset and attitude that they can go in and win. So 4 Georgia Tech, 3 Toledo.
No Ralphie either. Keep that in mind.
No Ralphie.
3-pointer. I'm going with Alabama. You're not going to agree with it. Alabama minus 14. I can't get that 2-10 train wreck out of my head from Florida State. It's a completely different team for the 3rd year in a row for Mike Norvell. Castellanos is at QB. Let's remember, he lost his job last year at Boston College to Grayson James, who then lost his job this spring to Alabama transfer Dylan Lonergan. So that doesn't inspire a ton of confidence in me that no matter how much trash he talks, I do think DeBoer is a good coach. There were some issues, I think, for the players like you talked about earlier, from transitioning from Saban to DeBoer. I think hopefully that is mitigated a little bit here in year 2. People are getting a little bit more used to the new program set in place. I don't think Ty Simpson has to be a superhero out there. I think the Tide defense will shut these guys down, and they will win by more than 14.
Well, I got my 2 is Florida State plus 14. So like right off the go. And I mean, like to me, it's if I miss it and you're right, so be it. But it's like if I'm in that locker room, we're a 2-touchdown dog at home. We're Florida State. Like I'll do the pregame speech if they need it. Like you can't accept that as a program of Florida State's caliber. I don't care if it's Alabama. I'm surprised they've never played Alabama's never played there, which is crazy to me, given how many years of college football history we have. But I'm going to give Florida State the benefit of the wet field, the new quarterback, and the pride factor. Like, okay, if you were 2-10 last year, can you get back up to 7-8? I saw a tweet, Tom Fornelli on a podcast. He said something to the effect of, the tweet said Florida State's more like SMU and Louisville than Clemson and Miami. And as our listener, DT Roll Hunter says, I hope I got that right, that they were soft last year. So again, I'm challenging you. You've got dudes up front. Go play. And if they lose to Alabama by that many points, we're going to have an issue.
Right. And then as you and I saw at the media days when Norvell, like he's just this like constant like motivational speeches and all that stuff. It's just people tune out when things go south, The
last guy,
all the Florida State guys were like, he's like that every day. He's the same guy every day. And I'm like, if I'm 2-7 and he's doing that every day, I remember its effectiveness.
Illinois coach Tim Beckman many years ago. I think it was Tim Beckman. I hope I got that right. He was doing something similar at Media Day. He was fired like a month later. So it is something to watch. Who's your 2?
That was funny. All right, number 2-pointer. I'm going with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Minus 2.5, just a little bit lower than you have it. I think the defense will carry the day, and it's going to be a close one. But who would you rather have in your sideline in a close one? Marcus Freeman or Mario Cristobal? I'm going with Freeman. I'm going with Notre Dame. They finally get that win against the Hurricanes down in Miami.
I like it.
All right, my 1-pointer. I'm going to take Baylor. Plus 2.5 on Friday night.
Trying to make me work on Friday with the Hugh Freeze take, aren't you?
Sawyer Robertson's back, threw for 3,000 yards last year, 28 touchdowns, 8 picks. I got a 1,000-yard rusher back. I'm not a believer in Jackson Arnold. 6 SEC games last year. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and took 25 sacks, which isn't all his fault. But he was benched, throughout the season at various points at Oklahoma. Auburn does have good receivers. Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, both very, very good, but make some time to click. I don't know. I just think going on the road, first game, I like Baylor at home.
Oh, I don't hate it. And then my 1, me, I always pick the big game, and I'm going to go Ohio State at home by minus 1.5. I mean, you're basically picking the winner at that point.
Manning hater. Come on, man.
No, I'm not a Manning hater. I just go by the stats. Like Ohio State has not lost an opener since 1999. It's going to be. I want to see. I do think it's going to be a classic. I think Texas has gotten a little bit of a big game rep that they're starting to get. Well, this is the big game. They've won 11 straight road games. I didn't know that. So they've got a little bit of a road winning streak going under Sark, which makes sense. They've gone into Alabama and won. They've gone into Michigan and won. They went into Kyle Field and won last year against Texas A&M. So like that part of it, I'm kind of like, well, they might be able to handle it after all. But, I've watched so many Ohio State games over the years in that stadium. I just think I thought they were the better team last year with both teams with so many questions. In a game like that, you lean on the home team. Won't be surprised if Texas wins, but and then Arch will be writing a lot about that. But I'm gonna go with the Buckeyes here.
Okay, all right. So to review, my 5-pointer: South Carolina -7.5 against Virginia Tech. I got Toledo +9, which you and I agree on. I've got Alabama -14, which we disagree on. My 2-pointer Notre Dame -2.5. We agree. So we picked 3 out of the same 5, which is kind of crazy considering such a lot of games to choose from. And I got Baylor +2.5 against Auburn on Friday night. You went with Notre Dame, Georgia Tech -4.5 Friday night at Colorado, Toledo, like we talked about, Florida State getting 14 against Alabama. Maybe not the win, but definitely the cover for you. And then you've got Ohio State taking down number 1. Texas A&M, which leads us into our Troche trivia question. Can you name the last national champion to lose their opener? And then as my bonus question to you, who was the QB that took them down?
Ty Detmer, BYU, right? Beat Miami. Wait, that's not number. Yeah, that was. Are we talking national champion or number 1?
Defending national champion.
Oh, that one's LSU lost to Mississippi State, and the quarterback was, oh God, what was his name?
The last one to lose was
LSU. I got it. I got the quarterback.
That lost to Mississippi State 44-34.
Give me a second. It's Rogers, right? Will Rogers was the quarterback. It wasn't him. Who was the Mississippi State quarterback?
Amazingly, I don't think he made it through the season. I think he got benched at some point.
Threw for like 800 yards, whoever it was.
Former Stanford transfer KJ Costello.
Oh, my gosh.
Passed for 623 yards.
Oh, my gosh. They were playing on air that day, and I thought it was like going to revolutionize football. But no, yeah, the last number 1 to lose their opener is Miami. They lost to Ty Detmer. I just wrote this in the story yesterday. So, yeah, I should have looked. I should have just clicked on the box score because I knew LSU. I had that in the story that you're going to publish here shortly.
That's so funny. So, all right. Well, that's it. That's all we've got. That was really fun. We're looking forward to it. We will have shows Tuesday morning and Thursday morning next week, and hopefully throughout the season around 9:30. Appreciate everybody joining us. Thanks to everyone for listening to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you to Irish Breakdown, your source for Notre Dame football information. Thanks to the folks joining us on YouTube for our live show right here. And enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week.